Welcome to this meditation session, and unequivocally here we are to acknowledge the location that you're sitting in, to acknowledge what is supporting your weight, where the pull of gravity meets a surface, and to really feel that you're here. And one of the opportunities in meditation is to recognize the space that's around everything. That whatever we sense, whatever we feel, whatever we experience, whatever we think, that there's a way of seeing it in its own uniqueness as a particular manifestation, and with around which is the space of awareness, around which it can exist just in itself as it is, in a way that can be seen as respectful for the uniqueness of it, for the momentariness of it, but also allows us to not get involved or caught in it, allowing each thing to exist like a star is allowed to exist in the vast night sky. So different sensations and different Vedana feeling tones, and thoughts and whatever. There's a way of being open, relaxed with awareness, to see it by itself, just, and without diminishing its value, you can add the word just. It's just a feeling, just a sensation. It's just a thought. It's just a sound. And that just maybe is to allow you to recognize that whatever unique situation, event comes into awareness, there can be the space of awareness around it. There can be a gap between what we are aware of and how we react to it, how we think about it, how we feel about it. And that gap, that space between them, is a space of freedom. The gap and freedom, the space between the way in which we identify with stuff or assume there's a self, make up idea of me, myself, and mine. Maybe it's okay that you do so, but there's a space, a gap, a pause between each thing. And each thing is independent, free of the self-making we do. So gently closing your eyes and taking a few long, slow, deep breaths. Relaxing as you exhale. If you take a deep inhale, maybe your torso, chest expands out into the space around you. and inhale, it recedes. Letting your breathing return to normal. And on the exhale, continue to take a few moments to relax the body. Softening in the face, the shoulders, the belly. And becoming aware of the simplicity of breathing. That whatever sensations are present in your breathing exist it's surrounded by the space of awareness. They exist as particular points of sensation, places of sensation, outside of which those sensations are not seen or felt. The sensations that make up the edges of your body, beyond them there is space. In a certain way, inside of them there is space. And you might be thinking about what's happening, but there is a space or a gap between your thoughts and the experience. It's possible to know the experience in its own simplicity, as distinct from thinking, thoughts. The space around each phenomenal experience might also be characterized by silence, a sweet silence. Or a stillness. And as you breathe, perhaps breathe it through and into the spaciousness here, the silence that's here, the stillness that's here. So you don't deny anything, but each thing, each experience can exist within the space of awareness as itself. If you focus on the objects in a room, you might not notice the space that's in the room. If you focus on your thoughts and your feelings and sensations, you might not notice the space that holds all that. We tend to not notice the space, but that's where we can find freedom. Notice the space around things. Breathe with it. Relax into it. Let the space help silence the mind. As we come to the end of this sitting, to open the space in your mind and your heart to take in this vast, wide world of ours. A world of suffering, a world of joy, a world of oppression, and a world of people who care to end oppression. A world of poverty and sickness, and those who work hard to alleviate poverty and sickness. It's a huge, wide world, the young, the old, those who are alone and those who are together. And to have our heart be wide enough and spacious enough to allow each of them to be held uniquely in our hearts. So there's lots of space for people to be known and listened to and seen. May it be that we can maintain or find a heart fullness, a mind fullness that allows us to meet others and care for others for their own uniqueness, for their own personal circumstance. May it be that this meditation supports us to live for the welfare and the happiness of others. May that be an extension of what we find in meditation. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be safe. May all beings be happy, and may all beings everywhere be free. So this will be the last talk on Vedana, the feeling tones, the affective quality of our experience, and that all things have, among all the different qualities that things have, experiences have, all the different characteristics of them, they're pleasant or unpleasant, or neither pleasant or unpleasant. And we're kind of focusing on the real specificity of a moment of experience of something, and the complexity of a life, when many things happening in a kind of swirl of, or complexity. There could be a combination of all of those that we can identify. But when we get quiet and still and really kind of tune into the details, particularity of what it is, then they're pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And one of the really fascinating teachings of the Buddha is that people's philosophies, people's view of life, people's, maybe, he doesn't say this, but even maybe their politics, have at their base or at their root somehow a reaction to what's pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And very sophisticated philosophies, very sophisticated justification for political systems or views might have its beginning in a reactivity to things that we find pleasant and unpleasant. And this idea of pleasant and unpleasant that we're talking about here is not the raw unpleasant and pleasantness of experience. There is no such raw thing, because almost right away things arise, pleasant, unpleasant, with our perceptions, our evaluation, our associations with it. So that this pleasant, unpleasant, sometimes it's referred to as liking and disliking. So this movement of liking and disliking, being for or against, is so deep. And it's kind of amazing that if we really trace back where the basis of how we react in the world is, then we have this, trace it back, it all begins with pleasant and unpleasant. And this is what I said earlier. So anyway, the teaching of the Buddha is that all these philosophies and ideas of views, speculative views about life, the nature of life, can have their roots in this simple thing, pleasant and unpleasant. And the one that's most significant for many people who are interested in becoming free is the way in which ideas of self, identity, can have their roots. The way we, not identity that we are born into or that other people assume about us, or, there's a lot of identities which just come with being a human being. But the act of identification, the act of latching on to an identity, and all these different identities that we swirl around in kaleidoscope are relevant at different times. If we latch onto it, cling to it, hold on to it, then we'll suffer. And this clinging to identity, clinging to ideas of self, it has at the root of it this concern with pleasant and unpleasant. Pleasant and unpleasant can be a very deep conditioning for this movement towards me, myself, and mine. And one way it takes its shape is when we identify with the feelings themselves. When the feeling tone of experience, when things are pleasant, it's like I'm the one who's experiencing the pleasantness, or I'm the one who's experiencing the unpleasantness. This is my pleasant experience. This is my unpleasant experience. And this very close kind of wrapping ourselves around, clinging and having a sense of self in relationship to feeling tones is one of the great sources of suffering. And one of the great kind of possibilities of freedom is to allow the kaleidoscope of feeling tones, of how things appear and disappear as pleasant and unpleasant, to just come and go and kind of float in them, or make room for them, or be spacious around them. And these feeling tones are something that if you really tune into them and really get close and feel them, they're not stationary, they're not fixed. They're actually quite fluid and changeable. And the analogy the Buddha gave for them is that when there's a big rainstorm and the rain is falling, raindrops are falling on a lake, there's all these spatterings and little bubbles and spatterings of a splashing of lake water from the drops, and those appear ephemerally. They're there for a brief moment and then they dissipate. And so the feeling tones, whether things are pleasant, unpleasant, or neither, have that kind of ephemeral quality to it. And if we can really settle back and open up in the spaciousness of the mind to feel intimately that kaleidoscope of changing sensations, that's where sometimes we can loosen up the grip of self around the sensations themselves and to let go. And it's not meant to necessarily let go or to philosophical views, ideas of what self is. At the core, what this Buddhist tradition is about is letting go of clinging, any kind of clinging. And one of the means to do that is to be aware of the pleasant and unpleasant and neutral quality of our experience. And if you can kind of tune into the changing, impermanent, inconstant nature of those feeling tones, you'll be well on your way to not to appreciate that clinging to it doesn't really work. And that sometimes what we cling to is not the pleasant and unpleasant, but rather the concepts and ideas we have of pleasant and unpleasant. And that makes them stationary, seem like they last longer than they really do, and more constant than they really are. And so this idea that, and so to discover non-clinging through feeling tones, to discover freedom to feeling tones. And one way to do that is to appreciate the space around each feeling tone, the stillness, the silence within which the raindrops are splattering. And so feeling tones, pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral, and becoming aware of the ephemeral nature of them. And if they don't feel ephemeral, if you don't see them or sense them as somehow changing, maybe flashing in and out of existence, so there's continuity over time with some sensations, but they are actually, in the moment, they're kind of flashing in and out of existence in a certain way. If you don't see it that way, chances are that you're living in your ideas of them, your thoughts of sensations, your thoughts of pleasant, your thoughts of what's unpleasant. But if you really turn the lens of mindfulness around carefully to the thoughts themselves, you'll see that thoughts too are insubstantial. Thoughts too are like raindrops that come and go and are there for a moment and then they fade away. Unless we're holding on to them, or unless we somehow, in the clinging, are stringing a whole series of them together so they look like they're constant. But in fact, there's actually a lot of space between thoughts, between ideas, if we don't string them together, if we just allow each thing to be there in its own uniqueness. And in that space, there can be freedom, freedom of the mind that does not cling. So, those are my thoughts on this topic of Vedana, and I look forward to being back in a little over a week, and I hope that your weekend is pleasant, and in the pleasantness you see the inconstant nature of pleasantness, not holding on to it, not clinging to it, but learning how to enjoy with no clinging whatsoever. So, thank you all.